Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities are not. So today on Simple Nights Presents, we're going to be talking about the operating system of modern travel, how operational excellence and data are redefining the industry. This podcast that Simple Night Presents is where we explore the future of travel, technology, and the systems powering global experiences. Today, we're diving into something that most travelers never see, but what determines everything about their journey. Behind every seamless trip, every integrated booking, every smooth check in, and every personalized recommendation, there's an operating engine. And that engine requires operational excellence. Today, joining us is Danny Domenighini, is a seasoned executive with more than 25 years of experience driving transformation across technology, analytics, and large scale systems integration. He's managed $15 million budgets, led global acquisitions, integrations, implemented enterprise analytics programs, and aligned C suite strategy with execution across highly regulated industries. He's helped organizations move from inefficiency to optimization, move from complexity to clarity. What makes this conversation exciting is that the travel industry today is going through a similar inflection point. It's no longer just about destination. It's about data orchestration, interoperability, risk management, and scale infrastructure. It's also about experiences. So today we're going to explore what operational excellence really is and how it's related to travel. Why analytics and system alignment are becoming mission critical, and how travel platforms must evolve to survive, and what the next decade of travel infrastructure might look like. With that, I'd like to introduce Danny. Hi, Danny.
Hi there.
So Danny, we spent decades optimizing complex systems across finance, technology, and regulated industries. When you look at the travel industry today, what stands out operationally and what do we need to do better?
Mm, that's a very good question. I think what we need to know operationally from the back end is like the UX UI of a travel app on your phone or on a white label, etc., looks pretty seamless, but there's a ridiculous amount of complexity in the background. The travel industry isn't well vertically aligned. It's very kind of a bit of a broken ecosystem. So you have to have really strong operational processes in the background to make sure that what the customer's seeing on their phone or on a white label looks seamless and feels seamless, but it's really quite complex in the background. I would say that there's many different pieces that go into that, but I mean, a lot of them are, I mean, if you just take it down to the easiest thing when you're booking, which is search, compare, and book, those three things, those three words, so easy and on the UI simple, but there's many to many relationships in the background, multiple suppliers that have multiple price variances, regulatory differences by country. You've got FX in there for international, global tax issues depending on where you are. And of course, inventory volatility, where what might be there in the first 10 minutes a customer asks for it. So if they wait long enough, it might actually be snatched up by somebody else. So I would say that highly complex in the background, but we try to make it look seamless on the front end.
Yeah, so we talk about travel infobesity and the challenges that we have. I mean, part of the problem we have on the planet today, there's about 176 zettabytes of data, Danny. If you took DVDs or CDs and stacked them one on top of another, it would go 128 times between the Earth and the Moon, and it's growing at 69.6% per year. So this infobesity problem, the problem is data, right? And it's not just about travel anymore, is it? It's about experiences. How we can take those experiences to make our lives a whole lot fuller. So let's take an example. We're flying out of Miami. We're going to San Francisco, California. You're on the plane. It should know that you like to go in first class on the right hand side of the plane because you like to sleep. Should know that your friend Mike, who you went to graduate school with, happens to be in California at that time, and it knows you both like sushi and pickleball, and it sets up some time to go to the restaurant or Nanking. That's that sounds good actually right now. But it knows the kind of things that you like. And so what happens is when you start diving into these experiences, the travel, and turn them into experiences that are for you, hyper personalized, it changes everything. And you're right about it. You know, you've got these dynamic pricing models, you got all these kind of variables out there, but you got to make it for you. And that kind of a system, a SimpleNight system that turns these complexities into simplicity and they're hyper personalized for you, changes everything, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It makes it very sticky for the customer, which is what we all want, is to make it feel like they're coming home and it's exactly what they had last time. It's similar. It fills it in for them, gets to know them. I mean, I think there's a fine line between getting to know your customer and then I feel like if they might be stepping over into Big Brother, they get a little nervous. But if it's like you said, I want the bulkhead seat because I want to sleep, and it knows I like sushi and all those things, a win-win.
You know, you go down through it. It's, you know, we talk about, when we take the model, we take empathy and compassion and put it inside the model. You know, I did a project a couple of months ago where I took Skinnerian psychology, operant conditioning, I tokenized goodness, and then on the outside of it, I put Rogerian psychology, which is humanistic, and unconditional positive regard. Well, it becomes like your grandmother, actually, with trust and compassion and empathy. And actually, one of the original guys at Palantir, I showed it to him, and we were talking about it. You know, the future is making it like it cares about you. It's not
Yeah.
just a operation. It's about how can it make Danny's life better when
Yep.
it's all said and done. How you can make it better and seamless so that it feels in your soul that you can feel. That's one of the things at Simple Night we really like. It's travel is often viewed as experiential, but underneath it's really operational, right? It's about the data.
Very, very much. And the complex architecture to make it all work. I mean, I am not a technologist, but I work with some very talented people who are, and it's amazing to me how they can make all those connections. Back in the day, it was OLAP cubes where, where the saying was garbage in, garbage out, but now you're putting in really, I mean, much more data than you had before, and you're using AI to personalize it and then spitting it back out and making sure that it's presented to the customer in a way that's, as you said, comfortable and makes them feel at home and not jarring.
The one thing you said, I remember the garbage in, garbage out, but it's a little bit different today because you can
Very.
think it's garbage going in, but the tools that we have in front of us can turn it into something elegant, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a
As long
difference.
as it's
Garbage
as
in,
long as
then
it's spot on. It needs to be spot on to make the customer happy. If it's a little bit off, they get a little nervous.
exactly. So that means we gotta know the customer, and that's part of the journey, isn't it? So continuous
Completely.
learning, using variational autoencoders, ladder networks, to be able to help us to understand ontology, knowledge graphs, everything to be able to hyper personalize it. So, from your experience integrating acquisitions and aligning global systems, what does operational excellence actually mean in practice? And it are we there yet? Do you think that people are really striving for the operational excellence? Are they just talking about it?
I think they are. I think we all are. I think we, just like in many businesses, not just travel, but many, many, there's disparate information coming from different systems, et cetera. As much as we would love to say, and I've been doing this for over 25 years now, and I'm sure you have some of the same deals, which is, there's siloed information all over the place. I mean, bunches and bunches of it, as you said, like, by huge amounts of it. To use AI to help kind of ferret through all that, huge. We have to be careful because we are dealing with people's information. To be careful, it's not so much as nerve-wracking probably as HIPAA in a hospital, but there are pieces of data that you get that have to be, kept under wraps. So it's important to know your customer and know the data that they have that's, usable for getting them into a better spot and making them feel better about their booking. Without going over that line. I think that's one of the things in almost every industry now on the operational side, which is knowing what to use and being careful with it and being intentional with it.
knowing what to use and being careful with it and being intentional with it. Yeah, I mean that's and to do it fast, right? The time
Mm.
that we talked about Moore's law. We've spoken about Moore's law for a long time, but every day it seems like things are speeding up because we're able to make decisions a whole lot faster. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and people want it is, I mean, they're used to the 2 or 3 second turnaround on a very complex, either calculation or booking or information about themselves. Like their patience wears very thin if it lasts more than a couple seconds.
No, you're right about that, and we've done a great job at SimpleNight being able to take that complexity and turn it into something highly personalized using
Very.
the channel engine. So, how critical is business intelligence in a fragmented industry like travel?
It's pretty important. It's very important. If you don't have that, you're going to be struggling. You need it to really create the structure and the infrastructure in the background to make sure that you have good information and the AI engines can use it to create that kind of personal feel for the individual. Sorry, I'm getting buzzed by Slack. Let me turn that off. Multitasking. Yeah, so it's very important.
What role should real-time data play in you look at it and it's not about tomorrow, it's about right now and continuous sensing. How important do you think it is to be able to have that not near real time, but real-time data to be able to make those types of decisions that are highly personalized, hyper personalized for us?
I think it's very important from the operational perspective, especially when we're talking about like fraud and chargebacks and things like that that come up, and we need to be able to deal with them very quickly to minimize the risk and minimize the impact to the customer. We'd want to get in front of it before they're even aware of it, and I think the business intelligence there really does help with that. Chargebacks and fraud are a huge part of the travel industry. It's probably not as bad as like the retail space, but it's pretty high, and you have to like really be in front of it. We try to catch as much of it as we can right before it happens, and the business intelligence and the engines give us a really good idea of where to look. Plus, some of those nefarious actors that are out there that are doing that fraud they are luckily for us predictive.
Well, so far, anyhow, right?
Right.
Start using these incredible engines. I had the head of the quantum lab at Harvard on my show, Prania, and we're talking about it. Most people don't realize that being able to use tools on top of quantum computer, it's 100 million times faster. These are real statistics. What would take
Wow.
10,000 years today on the fastest supercomputer takes us 200 seconds on a quantum.
Yeah.
When we take multi-agent large language models that so optimized. So, for instance, Claude can be 1,000 times faster than ChatGPT. Imagine what the impact's going to be on all the decisions that we make. And there's really going to be two types of travelers, right? The people that know the data um, and understand it can make better decisions, and the people that don't, that are really using these linear methods to be able to find travel. And uh, you're going to have two classes of society: the people know how to use tools just like SimpleNight, which are easy to use, but these other tools that are flat, that really don't give you experiences, just help you take care of a task.
Right. Yeah. And there's a group of people that enjoy that part of it too, but I think most want the customized experience.
You've integrated 20 plus domestic and international acquisitions. Travel is incredibly fragmented. You've got airlines all over the place, hotels, independent, the Hiltons of the world. You got payments, you got local providers. What lessons from your integration work really apply to the travel industry?
I think it's just what I've learned from working in finance for many years and working with SEC, which is fragmentation always exists. It's kind of everywhere. And I don't think fragmentation is necessarily the problem. I think unmanaged fragmentation is. If you try to stitch it together and band-aid it together without thoughtful planning, then I think you're stuck out of the gate. But if you look at the different pieces that are so fragmented and think through how you want that to be long term, then I think it's a much more unified system that's going to help on many different fronts. It'll tell you, your margins will be more truthful. You'll have KPIs across different structures. It's basically kind of a unified economic nervous system in the background, but it's important to identify it and make sure that you're fully aware that it is really quite fragmented, and there's a lot of times you just have to deal with it and make it better, and that takes a lot of thought and structure in the background.
If you were building a global travel infrastructure today from scratch, what words of wisdom would you give the folks that are out here listening to the show today to be able to prioritize first? What's the most important thing that they should do?
Well, you're talking with an ops guy, so I'll give you my ops view. But I think most folks start with features and feature sets and what they think the customer wants or is going to use, which is normal. But from my point of view, I would think about, let's look at the underlying data and the structure to see what we can do to make it as normal as possible and as thoughtfully structured as possible in an unfragmented world, and then have our product folks really suss out the feature piece. But I think a lot of things start with features first, which kind of, in my view, because I'm an ops guy, peppers down into the space where we're trying to re-engineer it from the other direction. When I can build you a really good platform or a really good base, then you guys could iterate on top of that.
One of the challenges that companies have literally across the board is integrating the tools, the AI tools, into their models. A couple of years ago, I did a presentation not too far from where I am today, talking about digital employees and how they're going to change everything. So how important do you think these digital employees are going to be to the travel industry? And do you think people really get it, Danny? Because I talk to people all over the world myself a lot, and I'm really surprised at how their mentality is like 5-10 years ago. It's unbelievable, actually. So how far do you think we've come, but how far do you think we have to go in order for these tools to be readily accepted and used?
That's a really good question. I think it's two. I see it from 2 points of view: adoption to the customer, and then adoption internally. I think change is hard for everyone, and even though this is creating efficiencies and effectiveness and efficacy long term, I think that even in many firms, SimpleNight included, adopting and having it do what it needs to do to help us can sometimes be a little frightening when you've done it, a little bit more, I would say, old school. So I think there's a bit of change management in there too, is making sure everyone internally is on board, and that takes some talking and education and getting them there.
Yeah, it's sometimes we're afraid of things we don't know.
Right.
But out here in the valley right now, you see, I was with one of my friends for dinner 2 nights ago, and he just made $2 billion on a deal.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's not a big deal for him. You know who this guy is, if I told you his name. But it's amazing to me. And he's telling me, yeah, Gary, we're doing this, we're doing that. We've got we've been able to lean our staff down and increase our efficiency. And we're looking at 5-10x being efficient, which
Wow.
is unbelievable. And so the power in these tools to be able to help us make the kind of decisions. I mean, think about it. In your world, Danny, you got about 300,000 items in your personal cloud. The entire web in 1996 was 257,000 websites. You, Danny, have more information in your personal cloud than the entire web. The problem is Danny's trajectory is following the same trajectory of the World Wide Web. By that, I mean doubling every year. In 5 years, Danny, with the Internet of Things, you're going to have 10 million items. Now, we talk about, my friend Stuart Butterfield's Slack. You were just saying it pinged. Well, you could have 7-8 email addresses. You could have WhatsApp, Telegram. You could have 20 different LinkedIn, Facebook messages. You could have 20 different sources of information coming in. But you're a smart guy, Danny, right? You've done all these acquisitions. But how many times in the last 2 weeks somebody said, "Hey, Danny, I sent you a message. Did you get it? Or did you send it to my email? Which one? To your email?
Yeah.
Which one?"
It's true. It's true. You're explaining a scenario. You're outlining a scenario that actually happens more than I would like.
The thing is, we're to the point now. I remember in 2016, if you look in TechCrunch, I talked about this, right? Because I built a tool to be able to go after it. But this tool's everywhere, right? It's an infobesity problem. And so, you got your 7 email addresses. Somebody says, I sent you a message. You remember which one? I don't remember. You go say, you said, when did you send it? 2 days ago. Let me check. You don't even look. You know what I mean? Me too. You don't even look because you
Yeah.
know you're not going to be able to find it. What do you say? Can you send it again? Because you want it at the top of the queue. And if you don't look at it right away, it's going to be buried,
Yeah,
so far
quickly.
down or junk or something. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with travel
Yeah.
because there's so much data out there where we can make really eloquent, very hyper personalized decisions, but it's finding that data to be able to do it. And that's one of the beauties of SimpleNight because
Yep.
we can go down through and mine for that and bring it out in a fashion that makes sense to you. So if
Yep.
you're going to go to Riyadh, are you going to go to Glasgow? Are you going to go to Portland? You want to know what's happening.
Yep. You totally do.
Full experiences. And but it's crazy because we travel. You make a lot of decisions once you hit the ground, but it's crazy because you're there for a week. It takes you 3 or 4 days to figure out what you do. By the time you figure it out, you're leaving.
Yep. Yep. And things, and travel is one of those products that's ever changing. So after the booking, lots of things can happen, and we want to make sure the customer's informed, and we need to use the digital engines to make sure they get it as quickly as possible. I mean, nobody wants to know their flight's delayed and walk up to the gate and realize that it's delayed when we could have told them on their phone 5 minutes ago, or 20 or an hour ago, or whatever the number is. They're expecting that, actually. They're hoping that their phone will tell them, I always call it the Oracle, tell you everything. Well, I hope it will, but we're working hard to make sure that happens as things change throughout the travel journey, because from A to B, if you've got flights, hotels, shows you're going to go see, meetings you're going to have, things happen, weather happens, all kinds of things happen.
When you and it's happening more and more with the weather, right? With the Miradano effect, the Gulf Stream slowing down. I just had a conversation with a guy who was the lead author of the Nobel, and we were talking about average temperatures around the world based on the Miradano impact could go down 10 degrees north of the equator over a 10-year period of time. Most people don't realize it's called the Miradano effect, and it makes the Atlantic current will go counterclockwise. This is a conspiracy. I mean, I worked on that project with a guy named Irving Crick, who had been a student of Einstein's at Princeton back in the early 90s, we were talking about.
Wow.
But travel is really impacted by weather. Look at it over the last couple of days.
Huge.
You go up to the Northeast. Well, because there's 2 feet of snow.
Yeah. And thousands of cancellations of flights.
Yeah, exactly. There was interesting in the summer of 1816. There was an explosion, 1815, explosion of Mount Tambor, Indonesia. It sent volcanic gas around the planet Earth. It actually created a nuclear winter. So in July in New York City, it was snowing.
Wow.
And so you can't imagine the impact. So let's just for the audience out there, what does this mean? Well, there were Northern Europeans immigrated to the U.S. because they couldn't get anything to eat during the summer because the crops couldn't grow. And they couldn't get the information fast enough because it would take 6 weeks to get over. So they were already on the ships coming over to places like Ellis Island, and they hit the ground here. There was no food in the U.S. during that time, 1816. So they immigrated. In fact, there's reasons a lot of Northern Europeans are in the middle of the United States because there was no food and they eat wildlife on the way out. That's why they're Swedes, Norwegians, et cetera, in places like Minnesota.
Interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah,
I never knew that.
The last time that happened before that was this Miradano impact effect that I told you about was 11,000 years ago during the Ice Age. So we've got these challenges in front of us. So systems like SimpleNight being able to adapt on a real-time basis and continuous sensing are critically important.
Huge.
You must be able to make those changes in order to do whatever's right. And to be able to understand pricing models, to be able to what's a good deal for you, what's your budget that you have, how do you expand your experiences? Maybe you want to come to San Francisco and take the boat to the Farallon Islands because you want to go down and see the 300,000 birds and the great white sharks and the orcas and everything else that's there, but tailored for you.
Exactly. Yeah, and they want, and honestly, people expect today, they want the updates. They want it to be seamless. They want it right as it's happening. And there's many platforms, including ours, that do that very well. But they expect it. It's not really like it's a nice to have anymore. That's table stakes.
Well, because ours is different, because ours is about experiences. It's not about these flat relationships. It
Correct.
understands you and the kind of things that you want. And when you use multi-agent models like we are and multimodal like we do, it changes things. It changes the entire dynamics of the experience because it makes it hyper personalized for Danny. And that's what
Very.
we want. And when you do that, you're right about the stickiness. Why? Because what it does is optimizes your time too. It optimizes your money. So it
Absolutely.
understands what your budget is and the kind of things that you want to do within that, and it helps you.
And
Uh,
travel is about feeling too, like the feelings you get from it. Like, I mean, whether it's a business travel or personal, it's how they remember how they feel in that moment and how Simple Night helped them through it. Whether it's just an alert that says the gates changed or whatever, it may be like on an air, on a flight, but they remember that. And the flat ones where it's just I got to do it, I got to go to Sheboygan, Wisconsin for a meeting or whatever, is what it is. But you spend a big number on a big trip for your family of four, you'll think it through and you'll remember how you feel about it, and they do. They
Well,
absolutely do.
you're right because you start to have these experiences in your soul, and you start to, with endorphins and enkephalons that help you to be able to have richer experiences. And isn't that what it's all about, right? Our whole life is about experiences and the good feelings that we have from those experiences. Simple Night, those are some of the things that we're doing. And if you look out 10 years from now, what do you think a truly optimized travel experience will be like from an operational standpoint? And how much different is it going to be than what we do today?
I think it kind of, in my mind, it goes to where we were speaking before, and where Simple Night is now, and is continually iterating to be better at, which is I don't think it's going to feel in 10 years radically futuristic and like you'll hold your phone up and an image will come up in 3D or something to that effect. I think it's just going to feel effortless. I think that's what the public expects. They're going to want to be able to grab their phone or whatever device they're using, and the least amount of effort with the most amount of information that makes it easy. And to do that, to make it look effortless, I think and I spoke about it in the beginning of the podcast, which is, the travel platforms look very simple, like search, compare, book, cancel, modify kind of thing. But all that takes deeply, deeply disciplined operational infrastructure in the background. So I'd say effortless and kind of expected, honestly. That's what I think it's going to look like.
Today we can take anything, anytime, any place, and imagine what the possibilities when you have an omni-channel engine like we've been able to develop. And the future is about having these engines that can be used anywhere for anything, whether it's for citizen services to be able to bring that experience more hyper personalized for you, whether it's travel, whatever it is, because we're going to have, at some point in time in a not too distant future, we'll have one interface for everything. It'll be kind
Mm-hmm.
of like your grandmother, right? With empathy and compassion that cares about you.
Right.
And that'll help you make these decisions, and we've taken some quantum leaps forward on Simple Night to bring those tools to bear for all of you out there. So to all of you out there, we're coming to the end of the show. And Dan, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join
You
us
bet.
today.
Thank you.
And I take all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've done 1,600 podcasts at this point. We're broadcast in 73 countries around the world, and we've had millions of views. And it's because of all of you that we're here, because we believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but that the opportunities are not. And Simple Night Presents, we want to bring these opportunities to you with incredible, incredible guests, just like Danny, that have wide backgrounds to be able to help us to make our lives better. And when it's all said and done, it is about the experiences. And Simple Night's done an incredible job of creating a tool to be able to help all of us to be able to enjoy it better. For the companies out there that are listening, take a look at partnering with Simple Night because we can help you to be able to get closer to your customers so you can help them make more hyper personalized, better decisions. For all of you out there, the end users, tools just like Simple Night are going to help you to be able to make those decisions and have those experiences that go right to your heart and soul, like your grandmother, with empathy and compassion that care about you. And we're on the road to it. And Danny, thanks so much. Closing thoughts and how do people get a hold of you, Danny?
They can reach me at Danny at simplenight.com is the easiest. That email is always top of mind because I'm looking at it constantly. Um, and they can certainly reach me on LinkedIn too if they want to send me a message there. Easy peasy.
Sounds great. So if you want to stay on for a few minutes after the show, Danny, we can talk. That would be great. And to all of you out there, again, thank you for attending the show and coming today. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. We'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition of Simple Nights Presents. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. See you later, and thanks, Danny.
Thank you.